"You can't do this. I didn't mean to cheat. We can fix everything." That's what my wife screamed after being served with divorce papers at the office in front of her lover, calling months of lies and betrayal a misunderstanding. I never thought a piece of paper with 2 signatures would end 15 years of marriage, but that's exactly what happened. The envelope was on top of the usual Monday morning pile of useless mail, credit card offers, supermarket flyers, and a magazine subscription renewal notice. But this one had a logo in the corner and was addressed to my wife, Christina. I opened it while having my coffee, expecting some promotional nonsense about the next model year. Important Safety Recall Notice. It was written in large red letters. I looked at the details. Christina's 2023 Honda Accord, the one her company leased as part of her benefits package as sales director, had a factory recall on the passenger airbag system. The letter requested an immediate inspection and included a toll-free number for scheduling. I checked the clock, 7:15 a.m. Christina had already left for an early breakfast with a client, something that had become increasingly common in recent months. As operations manager at our local factory, I understood demanding schedules, but her pace had accelerated to a point that seemed almost frantic lately. I picked up my phone and dialed the dealership's number. After navigating the automated system, a service advisor answered. "On-time service, this is Mike Palmer speaking. How can I help you?" "Hello, Mike. I'm calling about a recall notice for a 2023 Accord." I read him the VIN number as listed on the letter. "Sure, let me check, sir." I heard keyboard sounds in the background. "Okay, I have the vehicle here, and your name?" "Daniel Foster. The car is actually my wife, Christina Foster." More keyboard sounds. Then a pause that lasted a moment too long. "Mr. Foster," Mike said, now in an overly cautious voice, "it shows here that this recall has already been performed on this vehicle." "Really? When was that? My wife didn't mention anything." Another pause. "Let me check the date. November 18th, about 3 weeks ago." "Huh, she must have forgotten to tell me." I was about to thank him and hang up, but something in his hesitant tone made me stop. "Was there an issue with the service?" "No, sir. The service went well. It's just—" He left the sentence hanging. "It's just, well, sir, I was the service advisor who handled that appointment. I remember it because your wife came in with her husband that day, or at least that's what I assumed." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "What did you say?" "The gentleman she was with was listed as the alternate contact on the work order. I just assumed—" He trailed off, uncomfortable. "I mean, they seemed—" My heart rate spiked. That peculiar physical sensation where the body identifies danger before the brain does. What was his name? "Just a moment, I'll pull the full order." More typing. Then, "Robert Martinez. He's listed here as the customer's alternate contact for future service notifications." I placed the cup on the table, afraid I would drop it. "Can you tell me anything else about that visit?" Mike hesitated. "Mr. Foster, maybe it would be better for you to come in and see everything in person. I really can't. I mean, I think this is something you need to see." "I'll be there in 20 minutes. I grabbed my keys and wallet, my mind racing. Christina never mentioned going to the dealership. November 18th. I opened my work calendar on my phone as I walked to the car. That was the day I traveled to the regional unit, 3 hours away, for an all-day operational meeting. I had left at 6 a.m. and didn't get home until almost 9 p.m. The dealership was only 15 minutes from our house. I got there in 12. Mike Palmer was a guy in his early 30s, wearing the standard on-time service uniform. He already had the printed records on the table, and his expression clearly said he knew he had stepped into something sensitive. "Mr. Foster, I want to be clear that I'm not trying to cause trouble, but when you called asking about the recall and I saw this in the system," he slid the papers toward me. The work order looked ordinary at first glance. Vehicle information, date, time, November 18th, 2:30 p.m. Airbag service, no charge. But there was a charge of $247 for an oil change and tire rotation that Christina had supposedly requested. Then I saw the signature line, her handwriting, her full name. Below it, a section I had never paid attention to before. Alternate contact information for notifications and vehicle pickup authorization. Name, Robert Martinez. Phone, email. Relation to primary customer. The box checked said spouse, partner, and his signature was right below Christina, strong, confident. He paid for the additional services, Mike said quietly, pointing to the payment section. Credit card on file, Robert Martinez, Visa ending in 4829. My hands were shaking. I put the papers on the table before I crumpled them. There's more, Mike said, even more uncomfortable. It's our standard procedure for authorized alternate contacts to pick up the vehicle. We take a copy of their driver's license for the file. He slid over another sheet, a photocopy of a driver's license. Robert Martinez, 44 years old. Address in a neighborhood 15 minutes from our house. The photo showed a man with dark hair, graying at the temples, a defined jawline, and an easy smile. Can I keep copies of all of this? My voice sounded strange even to me, distant, mechanical. I've already set everything aside for you. Mike, I'm sorry. If I had known... You didn't do anything wrong. This is standard procedure, right? Service records, alternate contacts, identity verification? Yes, sir. Then you just did your job. I stood up, clutching the folder to my chest. Thank you for your time, Mike. I sat in my car in the dealership parking lot and stayed there for about 10 minutes, staring at the papers. My operations management training kicked in, that analytical part of my brain that solved problems, tracked causes, and built documentation trails. The same method I used when there were quality issues on the production line. Collect data, identify patterns, verify sources, record everything. I picked up my phone and opened LinkedIn. Robert Martinez was not hard to find. The profile picture matched the driver's license photo, the same confident smile, although on LinkedIn he wore a sharp suit and tie. Account manager at Strategic Solutions Software Corporation, the same company where Christina worked. The profile showed he had arrived 8 months ago, transferred from the company's Denver office. Before that, he had climbed through various sales roles at competing companies. The skills section emphasized relationship building, strategic account management, territory development. The recommendations were glowing. Robert brings energy and innovation to every client interaction. A natural leader who inspires his team. One of the most dedicated professionals I've ever worked with. I clicked on his connections. There was Christina among his 847 contacts. I switched to Facebook, found his profile. The privacy settings were strict, but the profile picture was recent, the same professional shot as LinkedIn. In the bio, new chapter, new opportunities, embracing change. Relationship status, single. I dug into the public posts. 6 months ago. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the best outcomes. 5 months ago. Starting over isn't giving up, it's giving yourself a chance.
4 months ago, excited for new directions, both in work and life, I found a local public records website. Divorces were public documents in our county. It took me about 15 minutes of searching, but I found it. Martinez, Robert versus Martinez, Jennifer. Filed 6 months ago, finalized 4 months ago. No children listed. Mutual settlement disposition with asset division. The timeline formed in my mind like a production planning diagram. 8 months ago, Robert moves to the local office. 7 months ago, Christina's behavior changes start, likely when things really began. 6 months ago, Robert files for divorce. 4 months ago, his divorce is finalized. 3 weeks ago, Christina takes Robert to the dealership, lists him as the alternate contact, lets him pay for the car service with his card while I was out of town. I drove home on autopilot, my brain processing everything as if analyzing an operational variance report. But beneath that analytical structure, something darker and colder began to grow. At home, I went straight to my office and opened my laptop. The operations manager inside me took over completely. This was now an investigation, and I was going to treat it like a quality record audit of a supplier. I started with Christina's company directory, which I had access to because I helped set up her laptop a year ago, and the credentials were still saved. Robert Martinez reported to the same regional sales director as Christina, They were in the same department, the same division, the same operational chain. I opened Christina's calendar. She had given me access years ago when we coordinated family schedules, and apparently never thought to revoke it. I scrolled back through the last 6 months. The pattern was immediate. Before Robert arrived, Christina took maybe one overnight business trip a month. After his arrival, that number doubled, then tripled. In the last 2 months, she had traveled for work once or twice a week, but that wasn't even the worst part. I cross-referenced her travel schedule with Robert's, which I could partially see because both were added to the same events. Client meeting in Chicago, both listed. Sales conference in Atlanta, both present. Regional planning session in Minneapolis, both on the participant list. I pulled up our joint credit card statement, the one used for household expenses. The charges told their own story. Restaurants I had never heard of. Upscale city venues where Christina supposedly had work dinners. Charges at hotel bars, wine purchases. Christina had always been frugal with work expenses, preferring to keep everything conservative. But these charges showed a different pattern: expensive, frequent, indulgent. Then I looked at our joint bank account. Christina was depositing her paychecks normally, but her spending had increased. More purchases at high-end clothing stores, regular appointments at an expensive downtown salon, a place she had never mentioned, a $380 jewelry purchase at a boutique, a new premium gym membership. I leaned back in the chair, a physical nausea growing. The office felt too small, the walls suddenly too close. I got up, went to the kitchen and filled a glass of water that I didn't even drink. My own reflection in the window above the sink stared back at me. 42 years old. Hair graying at the temples. Me too. The lines around my eyes deeper than a year ago. I thought about the last 6 months with Christina. I truly thought, instead of just accepting her explanations and moving on. The long nights at the office. A big deadline to meet. Love, don't wait up for me. The weekend meetings that seem to multiply. You know how sales is. We have to be available when the client needs us. Her cell phone behavior, perhaps the clearest signal I had ignored. A year ago, Christina left her phone on the counter while showering or gardening. Now it went everywhere with her. New passcode for security. Charging the device in the bathroom at night instead of the bedside table, as she always did. The emotional distance. We used to talk about our days, share work frustrations and victories. When had that stopped? When did her answers become monosyllabic, distracted? And our intimate life? Before, once or twice a week was normal. Then it became once every 2 weeks. Then once a month. I'm so tired because of work. This client is driving me crazy. Not tonight. Can I just sleep? I have to wake up really early tomorrow. I had accepted everything, believed everything, telling myself that careers had demanding phases, that 15 years of marriage naturally cooled down over time, that stress affected each person differently. What an idiot I was. I went back to the computer. If I was going to do this, I would do it right. Documentation, evidence, irrefutable facts. I created a new folder on the hard drive, gave it an innocent name, Q4 Manufacturing Reports, and began organizing everything. I scanned the dealership service records, page by page, the order with both signatures, the photocopy of Robert's driver's license, the receipt for the payment with his card, Mike Palmer's business card. I took screenshots of Robert's LinkedIn profile, his Facebook posts, the divorce records. I documented Christina's travel schedule, cross-referencing with Robert whenever possible. I printed the credit card statements with the suspicious expenses highlighted. I created a timeline document, putting everything in chronological order. Month 1, Robert joins the company. First shared events with Christina. Month 2, Christina's travel schedule increases. First expenses at expensive restaurants. Month 3, Robert files for divorce. Christina starts visits to the luxury salon. Month 4. Robert's divorce finalized. Christina's trips double. Month 5. Multiple travel events together. Growing emotional distance at home. Month 6. Pattern fully established. Christina is barely home on weekends. Month 7. Current month. Dealership visit. Robert listed as alternate contact. It was almost 6 p.m. Christina would be home soon. I saved everything. I backed it up to a cloud storage account that I had set up separately. I closed the laptop. I wasn't ready to face her yet. Not until I had everything documented. Not until I decided my strategy. In manufacturing, we had a saying: prepare the root cause analysis before presenting the corrective action. Christina arrived at 6:30 p.m., carrying her laptop bag and looking tired. She had always been attractive. Auburn hair that shone in the light, green eyes, a smile that lit up any room. But tonight, she looked polished, impeccable, something I realized had become routine lately. Professional makeup, perfectly styled hair, a work suit that probably cost more than I cared to imagine. "Hi," she said, dropping her bag near the door. "Sorry I'm late. The client call ran over." "No problem. I was just about to start dinner." "Oh, I already grabbed a salad at the office." She walked toward the stairs. "I need to hop on my laptop for a bit. A few proposals to review tomorrow." "Sure." She stopped on the top step, looked at me for a moment, and there, for less than a second, I saw guilt, anxiety, a quick flash in her eyes. But then she smiled. The same smile I fell in love with 15 years ago. "Are you okay? You look stressed." "Just a rough day at the factory. Production variance in Building C." Try not to work too late." She went up to our bedroom.
I stayed in the kitchen, listening to her footsteps upstairs. Her office was next to our bedroom. She would be there for the next few hours, supposedly reviewing proposals. I wondered if she was messaging Robert instead, or perhaps video chatting. After making sure I was busy enough downstairs, I pulled out my phone and looked again at the dealership records I had photographed earlier. Robert's driver's license, his confident smile staring back at me from the photocopy. "You made a mistake," I thought. "You both made a mistake. You took her to a public establishment. You signed official documents. You created records that could be verified, cross-referenced, and used in a legal proceeding. You treated this as if it were already real, already legitimate. You put it in writing. And now I had proof that wasn't just suspicion or circumstantial observations. I had signatures, payment records, photocopies of government-issued documents, official business documentation with date, time, and location stamps, plus multiple witnesses. In manufacturing, we call this objective evidence of quality, the kind of proof that cannot be dismissed as interpretation or opinion. The next morning, Tuesday, I woke up before Christina. She was still asleep when I showered, dressed, went downstairs, made coffee, packed my lunch, and left for the factory at 6:30. At my desk, before the morning operational meeting began, I did more research. I accessed the company directory again. Christina still hadn't changed the passwords, and I found the organizational chart. Robert reported to the same regional sales director as Christina, a guy named Thomas. But what I hadn't realized before was that Christina and Robert frequently attended the same team meetings, worked on the same client accounts, and had overlapping territories. This was not the standard division structure. Normally, account managers had distinct territories to prevent overlap and internal competition, but their calendar appointments showed joint client meetings, paired presentations, coordinated travel. Someone in management had deliberately structured their working relationship to maximize collaboration. I wondered if that person had noticed what was developing between them, or perhaps if they had even encouraged it, thinking that a strong partnership between two top performers would boost the division's numbers. I accessed the company's internal expense reporting system. Christina had also given me access to this years ago when she needed help reconciling receipts for tax season. Another point of access she had apparently forgotten. The expense reports told their own story. Business dinners that stretched late into the night, hotel room upgrades from standard to premium, rental cars when company policy covered taxis or ride shares. Christina's submissions always came with the correct receipts and client names attached, but the pattern was clear. These weren't just work expenses. They were expensive, intimate, indulgent, and buried in Robert's expense reports, which I could access because they went through the same approval chain as Christina's expenses. There were identical patterns. Same restaurants, same dates, same clients listed as justification. They were charging the company the cost of their own affair. I documented everything: screenshots, printed reports, highlighted charges. I added it all to my growing evidence file. That evening, Christina got home at 7:30 p.m., even later than the night before. "Another client connection?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Yes, and then Thomas wanted to discuss Q1 planning. Sorry, I should have texted you." "No problem. I made pasta. There's plenty if you want to eat." "I'm fine. I ate at the office." She put her bag down, pulled out her phone, looked at the screen. A small smile flickered across her face before she caught herself and quickly adopted a neutral expression again. "I'm going to take a quick shower and then work a bit in the office. Is that okay?" She went upstairs. I heard the shower running, then the familiar sounds of her nightly routine. When she came down an hour later to get water, she was wearing yoga pants, a comfortable sweater, and her hair was still damp. "You're still up?" she asked. I was sitting on the sofa watching a documentary about manufacturing innovations. She nodded distractedly, clearly with her head already back upstairs. "Well, don't stay up too late. You work too much already," I thought. A flicker in her eyes, defensive, guilty, but she covered it with a laugh. "Sales doesn't sleep, you know that." After she went upstairs again, I pulled out my evidence files. I already had enough, more than enough, but I wanted a documentary trail so overwhelming that there would be no room for denials or alternative explanations. On Wednesday, I took a long lunch break and drove to the other side of town, to the address listed on Robert's driver's license. It was a new, mid-range condo complex, the kind newly divorced men often move into. 3-story buildings around a central courtyard, generic underground parking, but all well kept. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. Confirmation, maybe? Proof that Robert was real, that this wasn't some giant mistake or a misunderstanding my mind had exaggerated. His car was in spot 247, a silver sedan, the kind of car that screams successful sales professional. I sat in my car in the visitor parking area, feeling a bit ridiculous. What was I doing? Tailgating my wife's lover to his apartment like some kind of amateur detective? But then I thought of the dealership records, the signatures, the card payment, the driver's license photocopy. This wasn't amateur detective work. This was verification of documented evidence. I drove back to the factory. I made it in time for the afternoon production review meeting. That night, Christina came home at 8:30 p.m. "Jesus, Christina, you're going to burn yourself out at this rate," I said when she walked in. I know. It's just this end-of-quarter rush. It'll calm down after we close these contracts." She looked genuinely exhausted, dark circles under her professional makeup. "How was your day?" "The usual chaos in manufacturing. We had a quality issue with a supplier I needed to escalate." "You'll solve it. You always do." She smiled at me. For a brief moment, I saw the woman I married 15 years ago. The one who brought me coffee when I worked late on factory reports. The one who surprised me with weekend trips when stress was heavy. Where had that woman gone? When had she been replaced by this stranger who smiles at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking? "I'm going to take a quick shower and then go to bed," she said. "I'm exhausted." "Sure, I'll be up in a bit." She went upstairs.
I stayed in the kitchen, listening to her footsteps upstairs. Her office was next to our bedroom. She would be there for the next few hours, supposedly reviewing proposals. I wondered if she was instead texting Robert or maybe video calling, after ensuring I was busy enough down here. I pulled out my phone and looked again at the dealership records I had photographed earlier. Robert's driver's license, his confident smile staring back at me in the photocopy. "You made a mistake," I thought. "You both made a mistake. You took her to a public establishment. You signed official documents.
You created records that could be verified, cross-referenced, and used in a legal proceeding. You treated this as if it were already real, already legitimate. You put it in writing. And now I had proof that wasn't just suspicion or circumstantial observations. I had signatures, payment records, photocopies of official government-issued documents, official business documentation with time, date, and location stamps, plus multiple witnesses. In manufacturing, we call this objective quality evidence, the kind of proof that cannot be dismissed as interpretation or opinion. On Thursday morning, I decided it was time. I had enough evidence, more than enough. Documentation that would support any divorce proceeding with no room for negotiation or doubt. I called my lawyer from the factory office. His name was Richard Carson, and I had hired him years ago to review a contract for a piece of real estate we bought. He was sharp, experienced, with a reputation for being thorough. "Daniel, it's been a while," he said when the secretary transferred the call. "What can I do for you?" "I need a divorce lawyer, or maybe you can recommend someone if you don't handle those cases." A pause. "I do. About 30% of my cases are divorces. I'm sorry you're going through this. Can I come see you today? I have documentation I want to show you." "I have an opening at 3 p.m. Will that work?" "I'll be there." I took the afternoon off from the factory, something I rarely did. My assistant even widened her eyes when I said I had an unmissable personal appointment. Richard's office was downtown, in one of those renovated historic buildings that law firms love. The meeting room had a polished mahogany table and huge windows overlooking the city. I spread the evidence file across the table, every page, every screenshot, every timeline. Richard read everything methodically, making occasional notes on a pad. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me with something akin to respect. "This is extraordinarily well documented," he said. "Most people come here with suspicions and maybe half a dozen texts glimpsed over a shoulder. You've built a complete file with objective documentation. I'm an operations manager. Quality documentation is what I do." He smiled slightly. "It shows. The dealership records are especially valuable. This isn't hearsay or interpretation. It's your wife signing official papers, listing another man as the alternate contact, and allowing him to pay for the car service. Can we use this in the process?" "Absolutely. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, so technically, we don't need to prove adultery to file. But this documentation will be extremely valuable in asset division and any dispute over the settlement terms." He flipped through the pages again. "The information in the expense reports showing violations of company policy is also interesting. That's separate from the divorce, but it could carry serious professional consequences for both of them." "What do you recommend?" "First, we file for divorce. I'll prepare the petition and supporting documentation. We will seek a favorable division of assets based on your wife's documented infidelity and the financial evidence. Second, you must secure all joint financial accounts and credit cards. Third, we document everything, every interaction, every communication." "How long does this usually take?" "In Illinois, there is a mandatory 6-month period after filing before the divorce can be finalized. But we can negotiate the settlement during that time. With the documentation you have, I suspect your wife will want to resolve everything quickly to keep this out of public court records and also to avoid the internal company policy violations." He shrugged. "That's up to you. If you want to file a formal complaint with her company's HR about expense fraud and an undisclosed workplace relationship, you can. That could significantly impact their careers, especially if the company has strict ethics policies. But that's a separate decision from the divorce issues." "I'll think about that part." "Fair enough." He pulled out a client intake form. "Let's register the basics and I'll have the divorce petition ready for you by Monday." I spent an hour with Richard reviewing every detail of our 15 years of marriage. Assets, property, retirement accounts, financial obligations. Christina and I had always been financially responsible. We owned the house with about 40% of the mortgage paid off. We had good retirement accounts, no significant debt beyond the mortgage and car payments. When I left Richard's office, I felt a strange calm. The operations manager part of my brain had completely taken over. It was just another problem to solve, another variance to correct, another nonconformance to document and close. On Thursday night, Christina came home at 7 p.m., early, considering her recent pattern. "Hi," she said, smiling. "I managed to escape work at a decent hour for the first time in weeks." "That's great. Do you want me to make dinner? I was thinking of grilling some chicken." "That sounds perfect. I'll just change." We ate dinner together on the back deck, something we hadn't done in months. Christina talked about a contract she was closing, about the stress of end-of-quarter goals, about how exhausting the travel schedule was. I listened, nodded at the right moments, asked follow-up questions. I wondered if she could see the knowledge in my eyes, the documentation, the evidence file resting on my lawyer's desk. "You're quiet today," she finally said. "Just tired. We had a quality audit at the factory. Always takes it out of me." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We should do this more often, sit and talk like we used to." "We should," I replied. Her phone vibrated on the table. She glanced at it quickly and I saw the shift in her face. A micro-expression so fast that perhaps anyone else wouldn't notice. Anticipation. And it had nothing to do with me. Christina flipped the phone screen down. "It's fine, probably work stuff. I'll check it later. I'm here with you now." After dinner, we watched TV on the sofa. Christina curled up beside me, her head on my shoulder, like she did years ago when we were truly happy. I put my arm around her, feeling the familiar weight, the almost automatic closeness. I wondered if she felt guilty, if any part of her realized that this casual intimacy was a betrayal of what she had with Robert. Or perhaps she compartmentalized everything perfectly. Marriage in one box, the affair in another, not letting them touch. She fell asleep on the sofa, exhausted from the week. I let her sleep for an hour before gently waking her. "Come on, I'll take you to bed." She stumbled upstairs, sleepy. I helped her lie down, tucked her in. She murmured something that might have been, "Thank you, I love you," and passed out again in seconds. I stood at the bedroom door, watching her silhouette sleeping under the faint light from the hallway. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of building a life together. Shared dreams, compromises, routine, daily adjustments. All ending because she took her lover to a car dealership and signed a piece of paper. I went downstairs and opened my laptop. Richard had sent the draft of the divorce petition. I read everything carefully, checking every detail against my evidence. There were the dates, the documents, the request for asset division.
Richard had structured everything impeccably. Clear, direct, legally sound. I sent my approval with minor formatting corrections. On Monday, I would sign the papers. On Tuesday, Christina would be officially served at the office. By Wednesday, everything would be public record. Friday morning, I woke up before her again. Same routine. Shower, coffee, breakfast. But now I was walking on eggshells, trying to keep everything normal for a few more days. Christina came downstairs around 7:30, looking better after a full night's sleep. "Good morning," she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek as she walked past to grab coffee. That automatic intimacy of couples, a reflex, a habit, a comfort. "Good morning. Today is going to be a push, end of quarter craziness. I'll probably be late again. Sorry." "It's fine. Do what you need to do." She went upstairs again to get dressed. I heard the familiar sounds of her routine, the same ones I'd heard thousands of times. My phone vibrated with a text from Richard. "Documents ready for your signature. Stop by any time today." I replied, "I'll be there at lunchtime." At noon, I drove to Richard's downtown office. The divorce petition was professionally printed, bound in a blue legal folder. I read everything one last time, even though I had already approved the draft. "Once you sign this, there's no turning back," Richard said. "Well, technically you could withdraw the petition, but it's a formal legal filing. From here, this becomes real." I understand. I signed on every necessary page. My signature looked firm, controlled, nothing consistent with the chaos I felt inside. "I'll file this with the court this afternoon," Richard said. "The process server will deliver the papers at Christina's office Tuesday morning. Prepare yourself. She'll likely try to contact you immediately. I'll be at work. She can call me there." Richard watched me for a moment. "One more thing, Daniel. You should probably sleep somewhere else Monday night.
When she's served on Tuesday, the first reaction will be to rush home to confront you. Better not to be there. I have a colleague who lives near the factory. I'll ask if I can stay at his place Monday. Good. And Daniel, I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. With this documentation, you have excellent chances for a favorable settlement. I drove back to the factory with the folder of documents on the passenger seat. It felt heavier than it should, as if it were carrying more than paper and ink. That evening, Christina got home at 9 p.m., later than ever. "Jesus, Christina, this is getting ridiculous," I said when she walked in. I know. Just 2 more weeks until quarter close. Then things will calm down, I promise." She looked genuinely regretful. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I know I've been absent." "Yes, you have." She put her bag down and walked over to where I was sitting at the kitchen table. She wrapped her arms around my shoulders and rested her chin on the top of my head. "I'll make it up to you. After the quarter, we'll take a weekend trip. Just us, no work, no phones, no stress." "That sounds good." She kissed the top of my head. "I'm going to take a quick shower and go to bed. Don't stay up late." "I won't." She went upstairs. I heard the shower running. I heard her moving around. Then silence, except for the quiet hum of the AC and the soft tick of the clock. I sat at the table for a long time, thinking about everything and nothing. Monday arrived with a cold clarity. I packed a bag before Christina woke up. I put it in the car before she came downstairs. When she asked why I was bringing a suitcase to work, I replied, "We might have late-night production tests. I might have to sleep near the factory." "Okay, text me if you're not coming back." She kissed me, as always. "I will." I drove to work on autopilot. I went through the usual routine: morning production meeting, quality review, reports, but inside I was counting the hours until the next morning. That night, instead of going home, I drove to my colleague Brian's house, another operations manager, divorced, a man who understood complicated personal situations. When I called him on Friday asking to stay, he didn't ask questions. "The guest room is yours, buddy. Beer's in the fridge." "Thanks, Brian, really." That night, I sat in the guest room, checking my phone compulsively. No calls from Christina, no messages. She thought I was at the factory working on night tests. The next morning, the process server would walk into Strategic Solutions Software Corporation's office and hand the papers to Christina in front of her colleagues, in front of Robert, in front of her whole professional world. And then, everything would change. Tuesday morning, I was at my desk by 7 a.m. The process server was scheduled to arrive at Christina's office at 9:30 a.m., during a break between meetings. At 9:45 a.m., my phone rang. Christina on the caller ID. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello?" "What the hell is this, Daniel?" Her voice was trembling, half rage, half panic. "They just served me with divorce papers here at the office in front of everyone. What is this?" "It's a divorce petition. The papers explain everything." "You can't just... This is crazy. We need to talk about this." "We'll talk through our lawyers." "Daniel, please, can we talk in person? Was there some misunderstanding?" "There was no misunderstanding, Christina. I have documentation, evidence, your signature on the dealership records, your lover's card receipts, your expense violations of company policy. I have everything." Silence. Then, "How long have you known?" "Does it matter? Please, can we talk? I'm coming home now. We'll fix it. We can fix this." "I'm not home, and there's nothing to fix. You made your choices, Christina. Now deal with the consequences." "Where are you?" "That's no longer your concern. Have your lawyer contact mine. From now on, all communication goes through them." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. The operations manager facade was starting to crack. The emotion underneath threatened to break through. I put the phone on the desk and took a few deep breaths. The phone rang again. "Christina." I declined. It rang 3 more times in the next hour. I declined every one. Then the messages started. "Daniel, please, we need to talk about this. I know I messed up, but we can fix it. 15 years of marriage deserve at least a conversation. Please, don't do this. Please." I put the phone on silent and focused on work. Production reports, quality metrics, supplier evaluations.
The familiar rhythm of manufacturing, which followed logical rules and predictable outcomes, kept me anchored. At noon, Richard called. Her lawyer just contacted me. Christina wants to negotiate a settlement immediately. That was fast. She's motivated. Apparently, being served at the office was problematic. Her company is now aware of the situation. Questions are arising about her expense reports and her relationship with a colleague. I hadn't filed any formal complaint. I didn't need to. The divorce petition mentioned the evidence as proof of adultery. Her HR would have been automatically notified, standard protocol, when legal proceedings involve employees. They were obligated to investigate. What kind of settlement is she proposing? Extremely favorable to you. She wants this to disappear quickly and quietly. She's offering the house, with 60% of the equity paid off, 60% of the retirement accounts, and she will single-handedly take on the car lease and credit card debts.
This is more than I expected. She's desperate to avoid a lengthy lawsuit that would make all of her documentation public. And she's also facing potential professional consequences, something a quiet settlement would help minimize. What about her and Robert, professionally? The company has strict policies regarding undisclosed relationships and expense fraud. I suspect both will face disciplinary review at a minimum. Termination is possible, depending on what the investigation shows. Daniel, I need to ask, are you comfortable with this settlement? It's very favorable, but if you want to push for more, I don't want this to drag out. If she's offering a fair settlement, let's take it and move forward. Understood. I'll prepare the documents. With this, we can wrap everything up in weeks, not months. I spent the rest of the week at Brian's house, avoiding Christina's increasingly desperate attempts to reach me. She called, she texted, she even showed up at the factory one evening looking for me. Security wouldn't let her in. The following Monday, Richard called with an update. The settlement is finalized. You keep the house with the retirement division we discussed, and she takes on all the debts. The divorce will be finalized when the mandatory period ends, but practically everything is resolved. And the professional situation? I heard through legal back channels. The company concluded the investigation. Robert was fired for expense fraud and ethical violations. Christina was demoted from sales director to account assistant. They kept her on, but she lost her managerial position. The company car lease was about 40% of her compensation. And their relationship? No idea. It's not part of the process. But if I had to bet, relationships built on emotion and deception rarely survive the light of public exposure. I moved back home. The following week, Christina had already moved out. She only took personal belongings and clothes. The house felt empty without her, but also cleaner, as if a source of contamination had been removed from the production line. In the following months, I began to rebuild my life. The factory promoted me to director of operations, increased responsibility and salary. I joined a cycling club. I started training regularly. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the last years of the marriage. I heard news of Christina through mutual acquaintances. She was working in a much lower role. Her professional reputation was now stained by the investigation. She had moved to a small apartment across town. The relationship with Robert ended within 2 months after everything came out. Apparently, the magic didn't withstand the reality. Exposure, professional consequences, the free fall. Robert, from what I heard, had a very difficult time finding another job at the same level after being fired for cause. Sales positions at that level required references and background checks, and a termination for an ethical violation was a permanent stain on the resume. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Christina at the grocery store. She looked different, older, tired. That impeccable polish she used to flaunt was gone. She saw me, hesitated, and then walked up to me. "Daniel, how are you?" "I'm well. And you?" "Getting by." She adjusted the shopping basket in her other hand. "I wanted to say that I'm sorry for everything. I made terrible choices and hurt you in a way I'll never be able to repair. I appreciate you saying that. You were right to divorce me. I know that now. She left the sentence hanging. I wish I had been honest from the start. Everything would have been different, maybe, but that's not what happened. No, it wasn't.
She looked at her basket, then back at me. "I heard you were promoted. Congratulations." "Thank you." "Well, I'm going to go. Take care, Daniel." "You too, Christina." I watched as she walked away down the aisle, pushing the cart. I didn't feel satisfaction seeing her diminished, nor triumph knowing her choices had consequences. Just a deep sense of closure, a chapter definitively finalized. A year later, I met Sarah at an industry conference. She was the director of operations at a competing company. Smart, competent, fun. We started talking about Jidoka manufacturing methods and quality control systems. Those conversations turned into coffees, then dinners, then weekend trips. Sarah had also gone through a divorce 3 years earlier. She understood the weight of rebuilding after a betrayal, the difficulty of trusting again, the importance of transparency in a healthy relationship. We didn't rush, no pressure, just two people truly getting to know each other. When we finally decided to move in together, 18 months after that first meeting, everything felt natural, right, in a way my marriage to Christina never had. 2 years after my divorce was finalized, I was promoted again, Regional Director of Operations, responsible for manufacturing facilities in 3 states. The promotion came with a significant raise and a move to a bigger city. Sarah and I moved together, bought a house, built a life based on honest communication and mutual respect. I still took my car to the same Honda dealership, the place where everything had started. Mike Palmer, the advisor who unknowingly exposed Christina's affair, still worked there. He always greeted me with a discreet nod, but never mentioned the past. One day, while waiting for an oil change, another customer arrived with his wife to sort out a recall. They discussed quietly at the counter about who should wait, who had the more flexible schedule. Typical negotiations of a normal couple. Mike looked at me and smiled faintly. I smiled back. Sometimes the truth is in the details. Service records don't lie, and sometimes the simplest documentation, a signature on a work order, a card payment, a copy of a driver's license, reveals more than any confrontation or accusation ever could. I left the dealership that day thinking about how far I had come since the morning I opened that recall notice. A journey of discovery, documentation, legal process, and finally, reconstruction. Christina's choices ended our marriage, but my choices to document carefully, to act methodically, to insist on transparency and accountability gave me the foundation to build something better. In the end, that was the only revenge that truly mattered. Not her firing, not the failure of the affair with Robert, not her diminished circumstances, but my success, my peace, my new life built on honesty instead of deception. Reddit comment of the day. Unbelievable how "I didn't mean to cheat" only shows up after the process server delivers the divorce kit to the office, right? Before that, the person really wanted it. They wanted trips with the lover, they wanted expensive dinners, they wanted to sign at the dealership with an alternate spouse. They even wanted to commit corporate expense fraud. The OP did the bare minimum. He treated the situation like an audit, collected evidence, and let everyone deal with their own moral recalls. In the end, the only possible fix was the divorce.